Hello everyone. So I'm back again today to show you my Arthur Folio, which is the project with the Cool Katz kit I came up with. So this is going to be a little bit of a pick and mix project. So in the previous video I showed you how to make the cover using that amazing extra wide Arca tape, which gave us a nice strong cover with a nice luxurious spine. So now it's time to fill it up. And as I said, it's going to be a little bit of a pick and mix. So I'm going to show you 4 different pockets and wallets which we're going to stick into our folio. Now it's up to you then. You could choose your favourite one and just make it 4 times. You could choose 2 of your favourites and have 2 this side, or 2 diagonals. Up to you. As I said, a little bit of a pick and mix. Make it unique and suit you. So I'm just going to put it aside and get ready for pocket number 1. So wallet 1 is going to be a slider photo wallet. And we are going to cut our cardstock at 9.5 by 6.25. So that will make our wallet for it. And then we need to make 2 sliders. Now if I did it at 4.25 again, which is going to be the width of my wallet bit, it's going to catch as we slide it in and out. So the easiest way, you could measure them at 4 3/16, or just a hair's breadth shorter than 4.25, whichever you find easiest. So I'm going to go 4 3/16 by 7 3/4. So that's our first slider portion. And the second one again now, 4 3/16 by 7 5/8. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 to the halfway, and 1 more 1/8. Those are going to make my 2 slider portions. Then this is where it changes from that slide I did in my Amazonia box. We're going to add a little bit extra inside. So again, we're going to cut these at 4 3/16 by 6 3/4. So 4 3/16 by 6 3/4. So that's the cutting done. Now I'm bringing in my scoreboard. So let's start with that largest piece. That's going to make our wallet, which is going to hold our sliders. So for this, I'm going to score at half, at 3/4, at 5, and 5.25. Then we've got our 2 longer pieces. These are both going to be scored at 1.25 and 1.5. That's at 1.25. But this time, we're just going to move over 1. So that's 3/16. 1 3/16. So now we have one of our sliders with a wide spine and one with a narrow spine. That's the only difference between them. And then our 2 flip out pages are just scored at half. That's our scoring done. So Now, let's grab all the pieces again. I'm going to grab my Teflon tool and my sticky paws tape. So we're going to fold our first half back. Let's put some tape on there. Just burnish it down. And then we've got that small thin gusset or spine like that. So we folded it around on itself. And now we're going to do the same with the other two sides. We're going to fold them both towards me. And what this has made is like a little wrap to go around our sliders. So let's just peel back some of the tape. Let's expose a little bit. And we're just going to line it up. And that's our slider wallet made. Then with the two longer ones, we're going to just fold those two. I don't need to worry about scoring them too much because we're looking for that 90-degree angle rather than a flat angle like a page would be. So there's one. I'm going to miter the corners while I'm at it. Not miter, sorry, round the corners. So there's the one with the wide. So that would go in the left-hand side. Now because it's going to add some bulk, that's why we made the spine for the second one a little bit thinner. So I'll try to just roll that one over to get that. Again, let's round those corners while we are nice and flat. So that one then will lay on top of the other one because it's a little bit higher up and you'll have that little gap there. So that's our two sliders. That was the envelope. So we're going to add these two fold outs now. So we're just going to put some tape in that 1/2 inch. There it is. And this time we do want to score these, to burnish these down. We want them nice and flat. So let's just burnish those corners. And now these are going to be flip outs on our sliders. So I'm going to turn it around so I can line it up a little bit easier. Just going to line up that corner. Get it nice and straight and burnish it down. And now this side. There we go. So what this is going to do for us now is offer us extra photo spaces. We've got 6x4, 6x4 there, and on the back. In the Amazonia one, I put photo mats on it, but because we've had to shrink it down to make the most of our 12x12 papers, we've shrunk down our wallet a little bit. So that's why we've had to get rid of those photo mats, sorry. And that's it done. So let's grab some papers and just decorate it. So we'll need one 6x4 for the front. So I've chosen from my Mechanical Seaworld all the pipework and the blueprints and things like that. So I'm not using the ones with the animals and things from the other side. I'm going to use the backs today. So I think we'll have some blueprints. So what I'll do first of all, I'm going to cut this down up to 6 inches. is how we're making the most out of our paper, because now this bit can go onto the right hand cover pocket and this can go on the left. So really maximising that one sheet. So we've got 6x4 here, plenty for the next bits later on. So let's just take my black soot distress ink around the edge. There we go. Got my glue. I quite like the back of this, so who knows, I might bring that back for the flaps now, who knows. So that's a 6x4, which is our standard photo size. So now we're just going to do those little flaps. Let's just have a look at the back of this. Yeah, let's use some of that. So again, 4 inches tall. We'll use this one here. And each of our flaps was 1 1/4, so we just need 1 inch strips. And I'm going to need 4 in the end, so I might as well just cut off 4 whilst I'm at it. Go. So let's have a look. So that's going to be our page. Do we want to bring that in like that, or do we want more colour? I think we could have them like that, yeah. So on this one, so I used the wide corner rounder, so now I'm going to use the medium one. So it'll give me a nice matte and layer. I don't think I've put it in properly. There we are. So let's just put that one. I didn't cut that round that one off at all correctly. So I do what I'm going to use one of the other ones. Let's get 2 of these then. So I think we'll just go with the greens instead. Bit of a change of a plan, but it'll work in the end. So this is going to go here, so the wording is the correct way round. And then the other side. And on the other one. I'm going to do the same on the inside. So again, our 1 inch by 4 inch strips. Let's get rid of the feathering with our black soot. Let's put that here. And this one over the other side. Now, if you're not one that likes seeing the joins, when you've added your flaps here, what you can do is put a strip of paper, of your decorative paper down there, and you just have room then for a 4x4 photo here. So you could do that if you wanted to hide the joins, but I'm not too bothered about them today. Now, if you find that when you fold this over, it's catching there, don't panic, just trim off a little bit there. It just means that you haven't attached it quite right there. So now that's 4 photos on that one, and 4 photos on this one. And that's the wallet finished off, but we want it to close. So what I've used is those trusty circle die with a hole from the Cool Katz envelope dies. And I've cut out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them ready for this. I've got some little tiny brads. Then I've cut another 2 for my thread end. You'll need to cut from the smaller circle down your 2 decoratives. Now I like these because the holes are perfectly central, and I don't have to pierce a hole and bend my cardstock. But also I've cut out some circles. These are from the mag pops, I think, which got a little stitching on the edge. Now I found they fitted just nicely over the top for my ribbon ends to hide that hole in the center. So I've got those ready to go as well. So this is how I made my closure. Let me bring out my 2 pockets. Let's just lay them down here. Let's get rid of all those little bits that we cut out earlier. I'm going to take one of my black circles and I'm going to put some glue on the back. I'm going to take one of my other circles and I'm just going to place it on top. So that's just giving me a double thickness now. Just to add some strength onto my closure. So I'm going to do the same again. Let's place the holes out in the middle. And just glue them together. Now onto those, I'm going to glue my decorative bit. Just piece the hole out so I can line it up. So now you've got 2 pieces of the cardstock and the decorative paper, so you've got quite a nice thick closure. It's nice and sturdy. Take another one and I'll glue it onto there. And then I'm going to take those 2 without the holes I got from my mag pops. Let's just tie it all in with the black soot. It may seem fiddly, but you do notice a difference. And now this will be my bit which goes on the end. So I'm just using these to hide those holes. Here we are. So those will be my thread end. So I've got these 2 left over. These are what I'm going to use to attach to my flaps. So I'm going to take one of my thick closures. I'm going to take just a 5mm brad through the middle and squash it down. Then I'm going to take that single one and thread it on. And I'm just going to take my tool, and between that single one and that built up one, I'm just going to make a gap. That's where my thread's going to go. So let's just repeat that. So Brad, squeeze it down. Put my single one on, close it down, and just open up that gap. It's easier to do it now than when you've glued it on, although I do forget, I have to do it later. So that's the back now. We're going to put some of our strong tape over our brad. So that's going to hold it for now, but it's not actually strong enough to keep it in place forever. So I am going to put my glue around the edge too. Let's bring in my ruler and find out, let's go on the inches side. So it's 4 1/4, so that means it's 2 1/8, which is there. So that would be my halfway point. So I'm going to leave that to dry for a second and repeat on the other side. So over my brad, add some glue. So there's my 2, so my 2 1/8 would be in the middle there. So normally then I would wait for that to dry, because you don't want to be tugging on your thread and for them to come apart. So there we have the 2 closures in place. I'm just going to take some thin black thread. So I think this is the one I did first, but I actually want to tie it from the left. So I'm just going to tie it between, you know, that space we created. So I'm trying not to do it too tight now. As I said, I haven't let it dry yet, which you would try to do. So we're going to just bring it round. How many times you want to go around is up to you. I'm going to take it a 3rd time there. Here's the end. And just bring in those ends we created earlier. Try and get it attached to that tape. There we go. And then the top one. So that is how our slider stays shut. So then trim that, and there we go. So let's bring in our album cover, and we are going to glue this in place down bottom left. So again, strong tape, which will hold it for now, but your strong bookbinding glue would be a good idea here again, because we are attaching it onto our arc tape. Let me see which way around it is. Here we go. And there we go, in place. So that's the first part of our folio in place. So I'm going to clear up and get ready for part 2. So ready now to go on to the second element, which is a sort of a 1/4 inch deep pocket, so you can really fit in quite a lot of photos. So I've got one sheet of my cardstock here, and the first bit I'm going to cut at 3 3/4 by 7 3/4. So that's going to make my pocket part, and then the flap to come over to hold everything in place is 3 1/2 by 6 1/4. So that's all that cutting done. So let's grab our scoreboard. So with our pocket piece, we're going to oh, that's my pin from earlier. Let's get my scoring tool. I scored 1/2 and 3/4. Then I'm going to turn it around 180 degrees and do the same. 1/2, 1/2 and 3/4. And down one of the long edges, we're going to do 1/2 and 3/4. And with the flap, with a short edge across the top, 1/2 and 3/4. And that's us done with our scoring. So let's grab our sticky paws. And on the flap, I'm just going to put it across that 1/2 inch. On my pocket, I'm just going to take it from the non-scored edge down to the first score line. You don't need any more than that, you're just wasting your tape. So on the bottom, just between the 2 score lines, and the same down the right hand edge. So what I'm going to do now usually I just do my cut towards that first cross. Now you've seen me do this a lot of times if you see my other videos, and then we just cut it off at a slight angle there. Then we cut the slight angle there, so we're making a little tab from that central square, and then coming down at a 45-degree angle that way. So we move it out of the way. So that central square has now been made into a tab, and we'll do the same on this side. We're going to cut towards the square and cut straight down. Then we're going to angle it to cut it all off. We'll cut the top of the square off and angle it. That's just going to give us a nice tidy edge later on. And then come towards it. Let's move those bits out the way. So now when we fold these, we're going to have our 1/4 inch gusset. That bit will hide the corner, and then we'll bring this bit towards it as well. So that little tab will just hide any gaps there. Now if you find these tabs meet, just sharpen the angle you cut with the scissors. Just do the same this side. So fold those 2 back, fold the tab in, and that's what you'll get. And no meat in there. So let's bring back the cover. And this pocket now is going to come down onto that one. Now this bit did have quite a thick gusset there, so what we can do do some tape the length of that. We can actually attach our pocket onto that so we don't have a gap. It's quite tricky now. And let's take the tape off this. I'm just going to put some glue just so I can move it if need be. Let's press this now against that one. That'll give us a nice finish. And let's do, you should now remember now we have got a bit of depth here. So things can move and things, so line it the best you can. There's 1 and 2. So that's why I attached that one first, then it all fit nicely. If I'd done my pocket first, it could have caused some issues down there. So I've now got my flap. I need to round off the corners, so I need my largest one. Fold those two over. I said I don't need my bone folder really because I'm not after that sharp sort of page, flat page thing. So add some glue just in case I need to move it. So I'm keeping my depth there. I'm just lining it up with the top of my album. So I'll grab inside. Grab my Teflon tool now and stick it in. So earlier on, you may remember we had that piece left over from there. So that's going to be the perfect mat and layer for here. So what I'm going to do is measure my pocket. So my pocket height is 3 inches. So I'm going to come down 1/4 inch. Let me show the wording is the right. Yeah. So it was 3 inches, so let's come down to 2 3/4. Got our pieces done. So I can't find my distress ink applicator, so what I'll use my distress pen instead. There we are. And the 3 edges there. So we can put them in. There's the front and the inside. And just give it a little burnish down. And that's our pocket made. And of course you could have put magnets there if you wanted to use magnet closure. I'm going to keep that same theme going. So what I'm going to use is my brad closure things. So these are actually cut from the cover. So again, because it was still 6 inches wide, my flap was 2 3/4, so I'm going to do it at 2 1/2. So these were cut at 2 1/2 by 6. As I said, this was using up what was left of the cover sheet. Then we cut it off the top. I said it would come in useful somewhere else, and it has. go. And again on the inside. So it's the other half of the paper. And you saw me do my brads earlier. So that's all I would do now is put a brad on there. Again, the tape will hold in place for now, but we really do want that glue to hold it in place. So let's have a look where halfway is. If I just go on the paper was 6 inches, that'll be easier. There's my 3. And the other one in place there. And again, all I would do is do my string and tie those 2 bits on the end. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave them to dry this time. And that's the left hand side of our Arthur Folio made. So now we've built everything onto this cover. We're going to do this side. So ready now to move on to the third of our pick and mix wallets. And this now is just one of my flip books. So to start off with, I'm going to cut one piece at 4 1/4 by 7 3/4. And I'm going to cut 4 pieces now at 4 1/4 by 6 3/4. There's one. Let's do the 6 3/4 first then. Four and a quarter, 4 1/4, and one more, 4 1/4 and 6 3/4. So there we have our cutting done. So let's bring in our scoreboard. And let's start with that longest piece. So with the longest piece, we are going to score at 1 1/4 and 1 1/2. So going for that 1/4 inch gusset again. I could trim off the corners on that short flap again. So that's my main piece done. Now all the others are going to be 1/2 inch with the long side at the top of my board. We're just making that 1/2 inch flap for my pages. So we're going to need tape on each of those. 1, 2, 3. Oh, there it is. I thought I'd lost a page there. And 4. Now this time we do need to have our sharp creases. 1, 2, 3, and 4. because we do want our flip book to have the pages lie nice and flat. Okay, so let's peel off 45 degrees off my first one. Let's bring my photo wallet in. So you don't want it to be on that score line, otherwise it's not going to close. So I'm just going to make sure you can see that score line. And then just build them up on top of each other. So each of these now will hold 2 6x4 photos. I'm going to bring in my scoreboard and just use this to line them up. Just makes life a little bit easier. And the 4th page. There we go. Everything's lined up nicely. So that's our flip book finished. And we're going to bring in that sheet we had left over from the beginning. It looks like I might be able to get it all done in 2 sheets this time. Let's see how it goes. So this is going to be my front. Here we are. Here's our distress ink. Let's just put that straight onto the front one. And then let's cut this one up 4 as well. Like that one. Let's have a bit of colour. So I think these were 1 1/4 inch flaps, so we're going to cut out 1 inch flaps. There we go. I think, yeah, we'll go for the colourful side. And the black ink. So it's going to be that way, so I need to cut these corners off. Let's just get my Teflon tool to get it nice and flat. And that then is our flip book for our 6x4 photos. Again, if you don't like those joins, just take a piece of your paper, stick it down. You've just got a smaller photo there, and you still got room for your 6x4 there, and you're hiding all them. But the photo will hide them anyway. So that's just a case again of putting on our thread closures. Bring in the ruler again. Let's go onto the paper so we can do it at 2 inches, which is the halfway point. So I'm just doing the edge of the circle against the 2 inch. And then here as well. And you can take your tool between those gaps if you to press it all down. I think I did forget to show you that earlier. You do want that pressed down nicely. And again, I'm going to leave that dry before I put the thread round this time. So you want to see how I did it, just watch the first part. And we can now just adhere this into our folio. So I'm taking it up to the top right this time. There we are. Bit too much glue, which I'll wipe off at the end. There we go. So there we have it. Our Arthur Folio is coming up. Again, what I'll do, I'll add the string and the closure once it's all dried. So we've just got one more piece to go. So our Arthur Folio is looking pretty good now. Just this last one to go. And thought this time I'll try and make an acetate pocket for it. So we're going to start off with a piece of cardstock, which is going to be 7 inches by 5 3/4. And then one piece, let's see if this got enough. Oh yes, we got this one. So this piece now is going to be 4 1/4, but I'm actually going to go a little bit shorter. There we are. So it's not even a 1/16, it's just a tiny bit shorter. You don't have to, but it'll just help a little bit later on. By 7 3/4. Let's bring back our scoreboard. Let's start off with that nice straightforward piece first. So this piece is the 7 3/4 one, and I'm going to score this at 1 1/2. Oh, sorry, 1 1/4 and 1 1/2. So 1 1/4, 1 1/2. I think that was the same as the flip book. Now with the larger piece, I've got the short piece along the top, and I'm going to score 1/2 and 3/4. This is to give us that 1/4 inch depth. And again, 1/2 and 3/4 on one of the short sides, and repeat then 1/2 and 1 3/4 on the other long piece. So we've got a nice U shape there. So that could be your pouch if you just wanted to make a deep pouch. But I am going to try and make a 3/4 of an inch aperture around. So I'm going to line up. This is the bit with no scores now. Now we start nice and easy. So we're going to take that until it's 3/4 of an inch along my trimmer. So I want to make the border of my aperture a 3/4 of an inch. So here's where my last score line is. So I need to come 3/4 of an inch down from there. So there's 1/4, so it's 1 1/2 inches. So I'm lining up my tool with 1 1/2 and pressing down. So 3/4 of an inch will be at 4 1/4. So I'm going to come down to 4 1/4. Okay. So that was 1 1/2 down to 4 1/4 with my cardstock at 3/4 of an inch. So now I'm going to turn it around 180. So here's my last score line. So I want that to come up 1 2 to 3/4. So I'm actually lining the edge with my 1.5. I'm going to do exactly the same. So it's 1.5 and stop at 4.25. So we've done our top and bottom slits. So that's all we're going to do now is join the two. So I'm going to turn around and I'm going to come to 1.5. So my edge is at 1.5 this side. And I'm going to come to my 3/4 and I'm going to stop at 5.5. But what we've actually got is that that slit there. So my trimmer actually feels it there. And turn it around 1.5, and this time we're at 6.25 here, up to, I think it's 1.5. Yeah, it's 1.5. And that has given us our aperture. So we're just going to trim some thin acetate to go into it. So it's 4.25, so I don't need it to be quite 4.25, otherwise it won't fit. So I'm going to like 4.125 by 6.125. So basically it needs to be bigger than your aperture with enough room for some tape to hold it in place, but not so large that it covers our score lines. So why don't we just get this in place now? So I'm just taking my tape around my aperture. I'm going to take these two off and do the same here. By taking those two off, these now are sticking right to the edge. So I could just stick it down now, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take some tape around my acetate as well. I know you can't see it, but what we don't want is the acetate edge not stuck down properly. So when you try to slide your photo in, it goes and tucks in behind the acetate. If that makes sense. I don't need it on the bottom bit because it's not going to catch at the base. There we go. And the last piece. So it's this edge here at the opening, that's what we need to make sure is stuck down properly. There we go. Let's just get out. You may think it looks like a mess, but don't worry, that's on the back. So we're going to turn it over now, and we're going to do exactly the same as we did with our other pocket. And we're going to take off the corners. So it's going to, I haven't put the tape on yet. Let's put the our tape on. So again, I'm working on the back where my acetate is for this one. You see why later on. So we're just going to cut up to that square. This time I'm just going to cut the square off just for speed. You can do that mitre, but let's just go for speed this time. So I'm just going to cut that square off. And here, so I'm coming down a 45 degree, cutting out that square, coming down a 45 degree, and cutting off the square. See, this time I've just cut off the square totally. I could do that a bit neater if I wanted to. Right. So now we're going to fold it and fold it. Fold that bit and that bit and those two bits as well. So now what we're going to do with this is we're going to bring back our original long piece, and we're going to do the same with this. Fold it twice. You can curve off the edges. And this pocket is actually going to wrap around that, like so. So before I do that, I'm going to decorate the inside here. So let's have this industrial one. I'm not going to bother with the black all around that. You're only going to see that edge. So this was the last piece from that 12 by 12 sheet we had earlier. And now let's wrap that pouch around. I'm going to let it drop in and stick the bottom down. Actually, it might be easier if I do one of the long edges first. Just take that off as well. And we'll just work on the corner. There we are. A little bit fiddly. Get this in. There we go. And the last one. And there's our nice deep acetate fronted pocket. Now it's just a case of taking some 1/2 inch strips and we're going to decorate around the outside. Let's get the trimmer. And we're going to have to use another sheet here. Half an inch, 1/2 inch. Just get my bone folder in and try and get to that bottom bit. Okay, so let's just measure with a bit of a black edge. If I cut here, it's going to be, yeah, I think I'll cut a bit off this one as well. So I've got 2 strips now to fit top and bottom. You see me do this method on the Amazonia box and other pockets, I'm sure. They're nice, easy, quick miter. So let's just, let's get the text the right way up. And so we do the top and bottom first. Like so. And then what we do, we take our other strip and we line it and mark where we would cut if we wanted it straight and where we want it to meet the other paper. So then we just take our scissors, instead of cutting straight, we are going to cut, you can see it now, from there to there. And what we'll have is a nice finished off mitre. Which fits between our 1/2 inches. So now we're going to do the same with this bit, but this time I've already got that mitre that side. So I'm just going to mark, I need to cut it from there, which is where the edge of that paper is, to the edge there. This is a really hard paper to see the pencil lines on. There we are. And then, as we do, we just get rid of all those black edges. So make sure you get your glue nice and close to that pointed corner because you don't want it to lift off. And that is some easy mitering. So I think we've still got some of this paper left. We can add a little bit of colour. And if I remember right, it should be 1 inch. Yep. So just some 1 inch strips from these bits. So 1 inch. So it's 1 by 4. As I said, it's leftovers from something else. So it's already cut to the 4 inches for me. Should we go for the text? I think so, yeah. So we're going to round off this corner. The corners on that side. So let's get my novel, and this one, let's have it going that way. So let's round off this corner and that corner. We need a little bit more ink. And just decorate the back. And that is your acetate pocket made. So what I'm going to do now is again take those circular brad hole from the envelope die, and what's great about acetate is you can actually attach it to the acetate as well if your tape is strong enough, and I'll finish that off. You don't need to see me do that again. So let's attach this now to our Arthur Folio. It's very nice and flat here. And this pocket is really nice if you've got a nice image you can put in there. And there we go. our Arthur Folio pretty much done, just the finishing touches to do with the closures. But there we have our 4 different methods of holding our 6x4 photos. All totally interchangeable. So if you wanted to just make 4 of these pockets and just put them there, you can. If you want to make 4 sliders, if you wanted to do this pouch again down here and have these 2 like that, totally up to you, totally customizable. But that is the Arthur kit from Cool Katz, designed by myself. And I really hope you enjoy the kits. It's a really quick method of making the cover, and it's actually really luxurious, really nice finish. And if you do have a go, I'd love to see your efforts. You can share with me in my Facebook group, Paper Crafting with Paul, which there'll be a link in the description below, and also share it in the Cool Katz Facebook page called Cool Katz, which again I'll link below. So if you like this album and you enjoyed watching, please give me those thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. It would mean a lot. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again soon.